Hey, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. This is another edition of Indie Author Insights. I am C. Miller, the Chief Editor at Sugar Publishing LLC, and today we have with us none other than Lady J. Libra, the author of Trouble with Socks. How you doing today, Jay?
I am great. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much for being here. I am honored and humbled to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am an author and I am a poet and a singer. So I am creative. We all are. But I really enjoy creating, you know, poems and music and just whatever is going to deliver a message that feels good in the spirit.
Love that. I love that. And I have been fortunate enough to read some of your work. And I had no idea you were a singer, though.
Well, I sing. I should correct that. I sing. I'm not
Okay.
a singer per
Okay. So
se.
don't put you so don't put you on the spot right now, right? I'm
Well, I
like,
mean, I'll sing, but
yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see the trouble with socks. Trouble with
Yes,
socks. Tell us a little bit about it. You got it? You got it with you?
I do actually. Here it is.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the tagline is some ish I wrote when I was in my feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
love
wrote
that.
a book about you. Like to hear? Here you go.
look, share with us, the concept behind Trouble with Socks, the whole title and everything. What's the story behind it?
Well, the title comes from my many experiences in relationships and love interests mostly. And the fact that I'm single now tells the whole story.
Yeah.
No, but socks, I relate socks to because everybody can relate to having two socks go in the washer, in the dryer, and only one of them come out is like what had happened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like that with relationships. You go in together and then somehow between the rinse cycle and the drying cycle, it's only one of you left. So it's kind of like that. I just kind of use that analogy, I guess, to get it to relate to other people.
Yeah. Yeah. So fitting. And that's genius. Was it a lot of emotion involved in it? Did you feel a lot of emotion stirring in you when you were writing it?
I did, but I also learned a lot. I learned, oh, that wasn't his fault. That was my
Really?
fault.
Really?
Yes, that it was eye-opening. And I spent probably a lot, well, I can't even give you a number of years, but it was a lot of time that I spent writing the book. I have been writing poetry and music for decades and have performed some of the pieces, and there's some other pieces that I felt were a little bit too bare to perform in public, but I ended up putting them in the book. So yes, it was an emotional journey, but it was more of an eye-opening, awakening, I guess, so to speak, after I started really thinking back, because it's not only poetry in the book, but I also give a narrative for each chapter. Each chapter is kind of dedicated to, like, there's new socks, which relates to the new relationships. Everything smells good, it's wonderful, it's clean, it's fresh, that kind of thing.
Mm.
And all the way to holy socks or dirty socks or stanky socks. Smelly socks is
Mhm.
actually the the
Yeah.
title of one of the chapters. And then I rally it back around to mended socks. So I didn't want to leave it, in a stank place, so to speak. So
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to bring it full circle.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. You mentioned some pieces were too bare,
Hmm.
but you put them in the book. What do you mean? What exactly does that mean?
Um, it's easier for me to write something down than it is to verbally present it, emotionally speaking. I'm an introvert by nature. So I can get everything I want to get out the way I need them to be on paper
Okay.
versus, doing it live in front of an audience and being vulnerable in that way.
Okay. Okay.
So,
And it's because of the emotions attached to that particular expression.
yes.
Okay. So if writing it is hard like that, I mean, if standing up and speaking it is hard like that, then certainly you're gonna feel something when you're writing it.
hmm
So, what advice would you give to a young author that's having trouble writing something because of what they're feeling emotionally?
Well, it's just you and the paper and the pen or the computer, in that moment. And it just gives you the opportunity to really dig deep. And if you are feeling a type of way about it, like you just cannot get it out, and let it sit, come back to it if and when you can. I've done that with many pieces. I'll start writing about one thing and then it ends up being something totally different because there's just something gnawing at me to get something else out, and I'll ignore it. It's like just like a constant tap on the shoulder. Hey, no, you don't want to write about this. You want to write about this, kind of thing. But I would just say if just go with what feels right. And it's hard to really articulate that. But as a writer, if you try and force something, and that's true in life, if it doesn't fit, don't force it, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But just go with what feels right in your spirit. And that's kind of what I let guide me, when I'm writing.
Great, great advice, great advice. And but the thing about it, like even doing this right now, most people when they're thinking about being on camera and being recorded and answering questions, things like that, I get nervous just knowing that we're recording right now. So most people are a little nervous about doing interviews,
hmm
and that's something that you're going to be faced with after you publish because that's part of sharing with
That's
people a
part of the
little bit about
process.
yeah, it's part of the process. So what do you do when whoever is interviewing you starts to revisit some of those things that you had trouble writing?
First thing I would advise is before you do an interview, see if you can get an idea of what is going to be asked of you during the interview so that you can kind of prepare for it. But a good interviewer usually will just spring stuff on you, out of the blue. So, and they're just going with the flow, kind of, so you can prepare yourself to a certain extent. And if there's something that is asked of you that may kind of dredge up some type of emotional response that you may not be necessarily prepared to deal with in the moment, take a breath, you know, pause and deliver it the best way that you can. And if the emotion comes out, the emotion comes out. It's meant to. If it's something that you absolutely do not want to talk about, you can say that, but in a way that's not off-putting, I would think.
Okay. Okay. Are there, in the case of poetry, and like here shortly, we're going to ask if you would share a piece from your book, Trouble with Socks. And if I'm so familiar with the book that there's a certain poem that I just want to hear, I just love that. But
Mhm.
that's the one that makes you feel what you feel. How would you handle it? How would you tell me that I don't feel comfortable reciting that one? How would a young person, a young author that's being interviewed, and the interviewer is taking them to a particular place in their writing
Mhm.
that they don't feel comfortable visiting while
Mhm.
being recorded or on camera, and how could they decline that gracefully?
Well, I actually had a situation where I was being interviewed and asked to read a specific poem, and I wasn't sure of who the audience was going to be, and it wasn't necessarily that I had an emotional response to it, but it was more my concern of who would be actually listening to it. And it wasn't meant for necessarily young ears, so to speak.
Okay.
So I just kind of made a joke of it and said, oh no, you don't, that's not meant for radio, or, kind of whatever it is.
Right.
But that was that situation. And it's just going to be really dependent on what your attachment is to the piece and how you're feeling about it. It could be that you make a comment that, oh, well, you got to read the book in order to,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that
Great tip.
get that piece or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great tip. Yeah. I apologize. My grandbaby's in there. She want to be on the show too. But
Oh, that's all right.
is there anything in particular that you do to better give yourself a little control of the momentum of the interview? Is there anything that you do when you're being interviewed that gives you a little more control over?
You know what? That's a good question that I have not thought about.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me sip my water.
There you go. There you go. I sip my water. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
usually have something to drink, or water or tea or something like that, and just pause so I can collect myself and give me time to think about what the answer is going to be.
Mhm, mhm.
I always try also to be prepared script wise. I'll jot some notes down. Again, that goes back to asking the interviewer what types of questions are you going to ask, and just trying to be prepared for that the best way that I can. That's there's always going to be something thrown at you that you're not prepared for, and like I said, it's okay to pause. It's okay to just kind of collect your thoughts, and you know
Yeah. I remember one time I was the honesty of it. It's okay to let people know that you don't have all the answers right then.
hmm
That was something I was big on because I don't like not having answers.
hmm
So one time I was asked a question that I really just wasn't prepared for. And I was like, much like the way you just did, say, I don't know if I have the answer for that right now. I never really gave it much thought, but
hmm
I tell you what, let's come back to that.
hmm
And we come back to that one, and well, now I put the ball back in their court because
hmm
they need
hmm
that time before they can get to the next question.
right,
So
right.
yeah, let's see how we do with that on the spot stuff, things like that. So, I love the book Trouble with Socks. Um, Libra, you've done an incredible job.
Thank you.
Would you share a piece out of it with us?
Sure.
I've loved that.
One piece that we spoke about is called Explore Infinity. And it actually was a much longer piece than what ended up in the book. As I was writing, I pulled from some older poems. And sometimes when you get a second eye on something, it's like less is more. So this is Explore Infinity. This was written for who I consider to be the love of my life. And I just thought about that type of love. You are my escape, though the space between us is measured by the sweat that it takes for us to exist. I do wish to journey further, exploring your ocean's floor until infinity surrenders.
That was magical. I had to close my eyes to really hear it. But I love it though.
Thank you.
I love
Thank you.
it. And that was the love of your life.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So it was a relationship that was difficult for us to maintain, but that's where it comes in, where I said the space between us is measured by the sweat that it takes for us to exist. But I still wanted to explore the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I know many people that are listening right now, I know they can relate to that. Still wanting to explore, especially when we have all those emotional attachments.
Mm-hmm.
The sweet fairy tale we call love.
Yes.
Either way, great job. Trouble with Socks, incredible
Thank
piece
you.
of work. And you are in the process of working on a new book.
Yes, I am.
Tell us a little bit.
Well, Trouble with Socks, I published that in 2020. So I was my own captive audience. We were on lockdown, so it was easy to write. So after I finished Trouble with Socks, I'm like, might as well keep the momentum going. So some of the poems that didn't make it to Trouble with Socks, I kind of saved back for my second book, which is right now entitled A Vessel's Melody. We'll see what it ends up being by the time I finish publishing it. But A Vessel's Melody is more about what inspires me to write, which, most of us probably get inspiration from a lot of different places. So I tried to incorporate that into the book. So I've got chapters dedicated to my inspiration, whatever it was. So I've got a chapter for my mom, a chapter for my father, a chapter for the open mic event that I ran with Gifted, another poet, called SpokenWordSoul. So, and then there's also a chapter on my childhood. So, just the different pockets of inspiration that I got. I follow the same format that I did for Trouble with Socks, in that there's like a narrative, there's a story, a short story before each chapter, and then a backstory for each poem. So I am in the editing process now. So we'll see how long it takes to get it out there.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I know it's going to be awesome. When you're going through the editing process, setting up your document and everything, what was one of the most challenging things that you faced as an author getting this published ready?
Whoo. Formatting, like you said, just making sure the margins were right, and table of contents and page numbers. Oh, I don't want a page number here, but I want it here. How do I do that kind of thing? And then I think the biggest challenge was getting it ready for the ebook version on Kindle. Wow.
Really,
That's
what
all I
was
can say.
challenging? What was the challenging part about that?
Because even though I thought I had it set up correctly, in my Word document, when I uploaded it, it looked completely different.
Right,
So,
right.
so
Okay.
just, but once I got past that, it was all good.
Great.
That was just the most challenging, because, the creative process is wonderful,
Yeah.
But then when it came down to the technical part of it, I think that was the most challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. The tragedy in it is that it actually discourages a lot of young authors.
Mm.
But the good part about it is that we're introducing them to you today, and you run a service called a document whisperer that you can help with things of that nature and help them get formatted and edited and everything right. Tell them a little bit about it.
Document Whisperer is a business that I formed with a partner, Alicia Almakender, this year, May of 2021. I've spent most of my career as software trainer. And well, I started as a word processor back in the day when they were still like regular typewriters. Can you imagine?
I was there.
There was no undo.
Yeah.
You had to use whiteout if you made a mistake, that kind of thing. So I spent a lot of time drafting documents, fixing numbering and formatting and all of that. So I've come to be pretty good at it. So we decided to form a business to help other people. Our tagline is, we quickly solve document formatting mysteries and train others to do the same.
That's awesome. And everybody has a need, they come to a place at some point in their life where they'll need a service like that. Just trying to get the documents right, because you never know whose eyes gonna fall on it. And I think
Yeah.
what breaks my heart, as far as especially being in the editing field and the publishing field, you know, you have people close to you or people that you're acquainted with, and they're excited because they've
Mhm.
written this book. And I went through it. My first book, I look at it now, I'm like, oh, you know, but I kind of leave it in place so I could, it's like a mark where I measure my growth. So,
Mhm.
but if it can be avoided and you won't help getting your manuscript ready, because everybody all over the world will probably wind up reading your book. That's the way we like to think.
Yeah.
So we would encourage everybody that's listening to reach out to Miss Janine, to Libra, reach out to her, find a document, whisper a service, and especially for college students, give college students an advantage, right?
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah.
I work at a law firm, and every year we host first year law students. And every time they come, they tell me that they have not learned how to format documents. And the legal industry is so document heavy, or there's a lot of, areas of business too that are, and you really need to learn how to control your document. Otherwise, you'll be on the struggle bus fighting with that thing, trying to get it the number right.
Yeah.
Or heck, I just want this paragraph to indent over here. Why is it not doing that? Why is my font all over the place? So yeah, college students definitely, I mean, term papers, dissertations, all that stuff. The APA style, we can help with all that.
Yeah, and that's a valuable resource and can also be given as like a graduation gift, right? Can I
Yes,
see something
yes,
like that? Where
you did.
so
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
yeah, 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 incredible. So all the holidays coming up, that's a gift idea. Graduation coming up, birthday gifts for seniors in high school, college students. There's a perfect gift for them that you know is going to encourage them to keep on in the way of education and academics or what have you. So, Ms. Libra, in order for them to get that service and in order for them to know about the new book that's coming out or find Trouble with Socks, we're going to need you to tell us how we could get in touch with you and how we could find you on social media and some other places.
Thank you again for this forum, for me to be able to even have the opportunity to do this. So as far as Libra, the author, my website is shadesofjlibra.com.
Okay.
And Facebook, you can get at me at Shades of J Sings.
Okay.
I sing, I'm not a singer.
Okay.
And then for Document Whisperer, our website is documentwhisperer.com.
Awesome. Awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll leave all the links in the description as always. We'll also leave a link so you can click on her book and get that Trouble with Socks and learn a little bit more about Miss Libra. Click on the link, get the book. Thank you for tuning in, chiming in. I'm C. Miller. This has been Libra, and we appreciate you all this day. Thank you, Libra.
I appreciate you, Mr. Miller.